Hello and welcome to the Second Tier Podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks, and it's your dad driving you to school in a Peugeot to my dad driving me to school in a Rolls Royce. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Justin. The season is now well underway. The fixtures coming thick and fast. We're just getting in the groove of things, and it's a bloody another international break, for God's sake.
It's a bit like starting a long car journey and stopping at the services after 15 minutes, isn't it? And then
this is exactly what it's like
later,
when we have to go down to London and go in your electric car, which can't go more than 30 miles without needing charging up.
Yeah, but who's going to be first on the ark when there's a great big flood, when the earth starts to collapse? Me, because I'm an electric engine, and the world's going to choose me because of my electric car.
You can be on that ark. I'd rather just drown, I think. To be fair, this international break, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it tends to be a bit of a burial ground for under-pressure managers. The first international break is still very early on in the season. This one is the one where clubs start to think to themselves, this isn't going very well. We've got 2 weeks here, so there's time for us to find a replacement and give them time to get their ideas across. So let's act now.
Oh, you're spot on. It's a weird one, as you say, but it's always a case of that first block of games very early. Teams are still finding their feet normally after a busy summer, and then you've got this next block of games in between the September and October international breaks where form really starts to have an impact on the rest of the season. Obviously, if it's not good form and teams are still finding their way, that's when the questions start to be raised about managers, and that's usually when speculation really starts to increase, as we're finding out over the last couple of days. Speculation surrounding several jobs has really started to build up.
Speaking of which, QPR 0, Blackburn 4. We'll get on to that in a bit later on, but welcome to the number one championship podcast, the Second Tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Yes, we're here to run through all the games in the championship this past weekend. Plenty for us to get our teeth into right here. We'll also do the polls towards the end of the show and finish off with Simon Grayson's Hateful Eight. Let's kick things off with Leicester, who continue to have the joint best start in championship history after beating Stoke 2-0. If they were to win a point from their next game, it'll be the best start ever by a side at championship level. 3-word review here from Hayden. Nearly third gear. Daniel says good squad rotation. LCFC head says strength in numbers. And they're absolutely right. A really comfortable win this for Leicester, despite massively rotating the squad. 5 changes made for this game, and it was still a walk in the park. Has a side ever been promoted by October before? Because we're getting to that stage already, Justin. I struggle to envisage a situation already where Leicester don't get promoted. It's been quite obvious for a while that they're simply too good.
Well, simply too good. There's a lot of superlatives that just come out of this, isn't there? It's an incredible start that they've had. Picking up 30 points from a possible 33 is just absolutely magnificent, and considering that I was sceptical about Enzo Maresca before he came in, mainly because it's a big step getting into this job, big step coming into championship as well. He's taken it to it fairly effortlessly, and that's credit to him and the team. But obviously the team are coming into games with a really impressive mindset after relegation as well, which again is really important. But you've only got to look at the style of play and how it's impacting games. They're starving opposition of the ball and letting their quality do the talking, and that's all you can really ask for a team who, as a supporter on Twitter pointed out, nearly in third gear.
Yeah, and I think the real victims here are us, because we've got 35 games left of the season for us to come up with something more interesting to say than Leicester are quite good, aren't they? And I did fear this would be the case. Even when they just got relegated, I remember saying that Leicester could afford to lose 10 or so players and still have too many players who are just too good for this level. In my view, they were the best side to get relegated from the Premier League, and all they've had to do is keep together a core group of players. I mean, we're talking about an embarrassment of talent. Leicester decided to rest Wout Faes against Stoke and then went, let's just see who we've got here. Harry Souttar, a player who we signed for £15 million and was one of the best defenders in the Championship at the point he was sold. That's the amount of strength they have got in depth here. It's without a doubt one of the strongest squads we've ever seen at this level. I think that's fair to say. They're almost guaranteed to break the record for the best start after 12 games by a Championship side, and I can see them breaking more records as the season goes on.
it's impossible to not see that happen. And the fact that they've still got Tom Cannon to come in as well. I've not really seen the best of Kelechi Iheanacho. Jamie Vardy, I think, is still getting into a gear, which is saying something. There's just so many
already.
Well, exactly, and I don't think we've quite seen the prolific best of him, even though he is quite old, which is an observation, not a form of disrespect, I'll add. But there's just so much quality to still come out of this team, and I think that's the key thing here. Steffi Mavadidi's been really impressive this season as well. Wilfred Ndidi in a new role has really taken to it quite nicely. Hamza Chowdhury is yet to become a solidified starter, rightly so, because there are other players ahead of him. But you're talking about strength in deck, but everyone's just going in the same direction, which is the most impressive thing here, and that's again why you need to praise Maresca for the job that he's done so far.
Yeah, and I think we have got to praise Enzo Maresca as well. It's very easy for neutrals to look at Leicester and say, oh, this squad is very expensive, but to actually knit it together and get them winning games as comfortable as they are, it deserves so much credit. You look at Leeds and Southampton, their squads are still amongst the most talented in the league, albeit not as strong as Leicester's, but they've had their issues so far. The only finger you can really point at Leicester is that they've not been winning games more emphatically. Having said that, I can't ever recall a side hitting the ground running and then maintaining it throughout the season. Maresca's just got his side moving through the gears very nicely, and they've been getting better and better, which is scary when they've only dropped points in one game so far this season. Enzo Ball has been a delight to watch at times. They knock the ball around so effortlessly and control games as well. Some had their doubts about him, like you, Justin, mainly because his only previous managerial experience was an unremarkable spell at Parma. But we are talking about a guy who last season was the assistant to arguably the greatest manager ever in a treble-winning season. So he doesn't get that job if he's a Sunday League coach, does he? And now the future, not just this season, but past that, is very exciting for Leicester with Enzo Maresca in the dugout, isn't it?
Well, I can't disagree with any of that. And like you said, I was sceptical. I was nervous about him coming in, but there's going to be pedigree there, as you mentioned, all the variables working with Pep Guardiola, etc. But I think obviously you're getting the style of play up and running, and mixing that with the fact that he's managed to pick up a club that's hurting after relegation, pick the players up, the club's staff, the fans. There's a lot of positives to draw from it, and again that lends to a good all-round coach and all-round manager, which pretty much lends to a good recipe for long-term success. And then you're replicating that, or it's happening on the pitch as well. It's hard to pick fault, which is frustrating for us, as you mentioned several times already, that we can't keep coming up with superlatives for them as the season goes on. There's going to have to maybe some stumble at some point, but it's hard to see it happening because they're just so well drilled, they're so confident, and there's so much quality in the team.
A manager who it's not looking good for is Alex Neil at Stoke. 3-word review here for Stoke from Wilsh. In the shit. Just 10 points on the board for them this season. They're 21st. We mentioned before about how unforgiving this international break can be for managers. Alex Neil is one of those definitely in trouble, isn't he?
Yeah. I think I tweeted on Saturday that Alex Neil isn't getting a tune out of this Stoke side, and someone replied with, he's tone deaf. And it's hard to disagree with it. And then you've got a managerial grim reaper in John Percy, the Telegraph journalist who asked questions, which is never a good sign because he's very, very well in the know. So there's a lot batting against Alex Neil here, but I just can't find any credit to give to him at all. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because of injuries, but going forward it's really poor. They're so far lower mid-table for chances created, but sit top when it comes to crosses in the box. Tells me that despite the wealth of technical talent that they've got at the club, the remit is still to just get it in wide areas and cross it, which then becomes a bit of a 50-50 with defenders and attackers. I'm just not inspired by Alex Neil in this Stoke City team, and it's hard to make a case for him to keep his job unless performances turn around before results.
I think it is worth mentioning as well that he's not being totally judged on this season. It's last season as well. He has been very unlucky with injuries this season, but unfortunately, in the time that Alex Neil has been in charge, Stoke have shown next to nothing in terms of progress. I don't really know what the style of play is either. It bears repeating that if he goes, Alex Neil won't be the first good Championship manager to lose his job at Stoke. Gary Rowett, Nathan Jones, Michael O'Neill have all fallen foul there in the past. Rowett and Jones have gone on to have success after leaving Stoke, and it wouldn't surprise me if the same happens to Alex Neil, because I think he is a good Championship manager. So is it the manager who's at fault, or is it something else? I fully accept that things aren't going brilliantly under Alex Neil, but will things improve? I'm not necessarily sure.
Could you make the case that Alex Neil, Gary Rowett, Michael O'Neill, and Nathan Jones are all similar types of managers in by the way they play? You know, have Stoke been making poor decisions in getting a similar type of manager, or is it just a case of there's a curse? You know, it's this old stigma of the Stoke curse. Is it the choice of manager, or is it forces beyond our recognition?
It's definitely forces beyond our recognition. It's a curse, Justin. I can tell you that right now. You say, do they have the same style of play? Alex Neil is known for being not route one, but a direct manager. Yeah. Having said that, he seems to be trying something different, but I don't know what it is. Whereas Gary Rowett and Nathan Jones, we know how they like to play. Michael O'Neill actually played some decent football in it 8 times at Stoke, but it just doesn't seem like there's any long-term plan here. And when that's happening, it's obviously not a good place to start off with, is it? But let's go to Ipswich Town. And as amazing as Leicester's start has been, Ipswich are somehow managing to keep pace with the Foxes after they beat Preston 4-2. Only 2 teams in Championship history have won more points after 11 games than Ipswich. One of them, of course, being Leicester. 3-word review from Jason. Can't stop smiling. Danny says, don't wake me up. Will says, McKenna is elite. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a big moment. For weeks now, the Ipswich Over Going Up tractor has been flying. It's been absolutely tanking it along. But Justin Peach has been refusing to get on board. I gave him until this international break to decide whether he's getting on board or not. It's decision time, Justin. Will you take my hand and join us on this magical journey?
Fuck it. Yeah, go on then. Let's go.
Yes! It's about time. It's got to be said.
Yeah. I mean, it took me 4 or 5 months to get really on board with Burnley last season, and they were scintillating. And to be fair to Ipswich's credit, they've been fantastic as well. But I'm doing this for you. I'm doing it for the good of the pod. I'm not doing it for anyone else. It's to appease you, make you happy, and hopefully it's done that.
I think you are doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your own reputation, because at the moment, Justin, I think I'm going to have to offer you some salt for that plate of words that you're eating, because you were very critical of me putting Ipswich in the top 2 of our league table predictions, and here we are.
It's just jumping to that notion that the good times just carry on, and it doesn't always work, but my God, it is with Ipswich. It's incredible just how good they attack and how effectively they attack, because they put Preston to the sword in this game. Connor Chaplin's goal from the set piece was absolutely brilliant. George Hurst was dancing through defenders, which, you know, the cliche, good feet for a big man. I hate it, but it was true in this case. There's just so much to splurge over Ipswich, if you're being honest. That's the wrong choice of word, but it is absolutely spot on. There's nothing, again, but like Leicester, there's nothing negative to say at the moment. Maybe defensively they could improve, but they're just so good going forwards. They're so well drilled, so organised, and they're so fluid. I'm on the tractor. Let's go.
Yeah, you are. We got him on board finally, ladies and gentlemen. It took a while, but we got there. And even Darren Huckabee's on board now. He was giving us pelters for being so overpraising of Ipswich at the start of the season. Now even he's admitting that they're going bloody well. And look, I've been accused plenty of fanboying over Ipswich and Kieran McKenna this season, but here's why. Because they are such a well-drilled side, such an adaptable side. They play some excellent football as well. And I get what you're saying about the defensive side of things, Justin. It may be a bit concerning, but you look at the underlying data and they haven't really been giving away as many chances as you might expect, and really should have conceded more based on that. They just tick an awful lot of boxes for me, and I will continue to shamelessly fanboy over them. I recognise something special when I see it. And I hate to, continue the theme of you eating your own words, Justin, but Brandon Williams has had a good start and he scored a brilliant solo goal after running from well within his own half. A quote here from Justin Peach: I think he's going to be a squad option. What do you think about that, Justin?
I'll happily take an L on this one as well.
This is great. This is my dream. This is the best day of my life so far. It's great.
Oh, he's been really good, especially the last week. The driving run for his goal was fantastic. It's the epitome of flying wing back, a runaway tractor, if you like, because there was no stopping him. There really wasn't. It tells you a player with an enormous amount of confidence. And then you go to his goal in midweek as well. Similarly, just getting in that position and put his head in there, just wouldn't have expected it. And maybe I judged him too harshly on him being a knob on social media, and I did, and I allowed that to cloud my football judgment because he has been superb.
Yeah, no surprise from me that he's doing so well. You don't play nearly 50 games in the Premier League, a lot of which were for Man United, if you're not a very talented player, and that's what he is. I think he needed to drop down a level after struggling with injury last season, and deciding to join Kieran McKenna at a flying Ipswich, having worked with him before, of course, was just a brilliant choice. And I think the wing-back pairing of Brandon Williams and Leif Davis is the best in the division for me. Both offer so much going forwards as well as defensively. I mean, the pair of them have 7 goal contributions already this season, both only 23 as well. They're just two very talented players flourishing in the system, and are one of a number of dangers opposition sides have to deal with when they come up against Ipswich. Preston had conceded 6 goals in their first 8 games. Now they've let in 11 goals in 3 games. The Great Wall of Lancashire is falling down as we speak, Justin.
Yeah, crumbling. So not very solid foundations, which isn't really the case. It's just been a weird 7 days for them, and obviously really disappointing. There have been some areas that need tidying up. You look at the Ipswich goals that they did concede. From Ryan Lowe's perspective, he'll be quite disappointed. I mentioned the Connor Chaplin finish from a set piece. It shouldn't really have that much time and space in the box. There have been some areas that need tidying up in the last week, but they've also come across 3 really clinical teams, and I think they've just been punished in some of the chances that they've given away. And obviously the international break comes at a good time, get players back to fitness and reset. I don't think it's too alarming, because I think that first 6 or 7 games is probably the biggest data capture that we can really judge Preston on, because they were really good defensively. It's just the last 3 games have, as I say, come across some really clinical teams.
Yeah, they weren't playing amazingly during that winning run, but the performances in the last 3 games have been extremely poor. Yes, 2 of them against Ipswich and Leicester. That's fair enough. Probably wouldn't expect anything from those 2 games, but just the fashion in which they've been beaten is a huge concern. I think the international break has come at a very good time for them, just to take a breather and reset almost. Getting battered 3 times in the space of a week can be quite damaging to a team's confidence, so Ryan Lowe has a chance now to just take them in, let them move on and get going again after the break, because they're still 3rd in the table, still a very, very good position for Preston to be in at this stage. It's just the past 3 games not been ideal at all. QPR 0, Blackburn 4. QPR have now only won 1 home game in the last 12 months. That's an absolutely bonkers stat, isn't it? Billy's 3-word review: get Gareth out. Attlee's 3-word review is a bit longer than 3 words: shit, 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 shit. You get the idea. Goes on for a while. Blackburn were great here, and we'll talk more about them shortly, but another manager who's definitely under pressure is Gareth Ainsworth. 8 points from 11 games this season. I saw a poll from a QPR Twitter account which had Ainsworth in or Ainsworth out. Ainsworth out had 88% last time I checked. What are you, Justin?
Incredibly, I was going to bring up the same poll, and the last time I checked it was 89%. So it had increased slightly, so which is an idea. I think I voted out. I did vote on it as well. And it's the frustrating thing is, I like Gareth Ainsworth as a character. He's a positive guy. He's got the same music interests as I do. I like that he pulls off his own personality, but unfortunately that doesn't get you results. And I think we all need to take a big honest thought and express that thought and say QPR have not improved since he came in. It's as simple as that. I think anyone with their hand on heart say that they've done that. They average the 3rd least amount of possession in the league and average the 4th least amount of shots in the division. It just isn't good enough for the players that he has at his disposal. One of the best creators in the division in Irish chair, and there's just nothing happening. It's not really had any much impact on games. There was a moment after the Cardiff game where I was thinking, well, maybe you've got this team to come around to your way of playing. Fuck no, I was wrong. It's just not happening. It just isn't, and QPR hurtling towards League One with him. Simple.
Yeah, I've been a long time doubter of Gareth Ainsworth, so it would be disingenuous for me to say I think he's the right man for QPR. I just don't know what the game plan is at home. When they're away, it's clear that they're trying to counter teams, and that's fine, but QPR aren't going to stay up when their home form is as bad as it is, and they're not picking up nearly as many points as they would hope away from home. To be fair, they have had a very tough first 10 games, but I can't say I've seen enough so far to say that they're going to start picking up results when the fixtures ease up. And Ainsworth is like a broken record at this point. He says he can turn things around, but we've heard him say that so many times before. And continuing with that theme, here's something I've said many times before. A better manager could definitely get more out of this team. Hence why I think I would not be surprised at all if Ainsworth were to go in this international break.
Well, it almost needs to happen now, doesn't it? Because, as you say, you mentioned that home record. QPR play like an away team. Gareth Ainsworth's style is basically like an away team. And you're not going to get results at home if you do that. If you allow opposition to grow in confidence in home games, it's just not going to happen. And they've got a very strong spine. I was thinking about it earlier today. Asmir Begovic, Steve Cook, Jimmy Dunn, Jay Clark-Salters, a very strong and experienced team there. Sam Field in midfield. Then you've got Elias Chair, Lyndon Dykes going forward. There's enough quality in this team to be getting more results, better performances at the very least, or at least laying more of a glove on opposition than they are doing. They're just not. I think that's the smallest variable you should be measuring Gareth Ainsworth on is, are they challenging opposition enough? They're just not. It's simple. They're not giving themselves a chance in games. He's playing too much to the underdog card, and unfortunately, everyone's bought into it too much, and they're now just weak and everything else, and so easy to roll over at the moment.
Let me throw a name at you, Justin. Mick Beale.
Don't. No.
Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that's who I'd go for if Ainsworth were to see the chop this coming week, but just interesting, isn't it? Blackburn were great though, weren't they? Had lost 4 on the trot heading into it, although there were some tough games in that run. Matthew's 3-word review: Sigurdsson is class. And I wanted to highlight Arne Sigurdsson, who had a great game here. Icelandic international on loan from CSKA Moscow. I think it's a bit confusing because his contract there has been suspended, but whatever the case, he's spending the season at Blackburn, got 2 goals in this game, and has had a great start so far, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done well after the last international break. And I think this game was a shining indication of what he can bring to the team, and hopefully there's more to come from him. He took both his goals brilliantly. The first was a very good poacher's effort, getting into a good area, getting in front of his marker with some good movement, and then the second was a brilliant finish and giving that little bit of extra dynamism.
Dynamism, that's correct.
A little bit more of that into the final third, and it adds so much quality to Blackburn's efforts in the final third, because dare I say they're in a bit of a false position, similar to this time last season. But on the other side of the street, I don't know. I'm struggling with spectrum. That's the one.
The number of times you like Michael Scott, the number of times you go down an alleyway and you just don't know where you're going with your sentence. It's unbelievable.
It's more.
But I get your point. I get your point, Justin.
It's more so the metaphors.
Yes,
anyway.
I get what you're saying. They probably are in a false position, because I think maybe they should be higher in the table than they actually are. But look, going back to Sigurdsson, I wasn't totally sure about the signing when he came in, because he was playing in Sweden last season. That's quite a step up coming into the Championship. So far, though, he's looked excellent. Looks a really classy player who can set them up as well as score them. Blackburn been a bit chaotic this season because they've been brilliant going forwards but leaky at the back. As long as they're continuing to be productive going forwards, then they're in with a shout of winning games. And Sigurdsson's going to be really important to that happening, especially if he continues to be as much of a sharpshooter in front of goal as he has been. In the Tees-Wear derby, Sunderland were thumped 4-0 at home by Middlesbrough. However, there was a moment which changed the game. Dan Neil was sent off just before half-time when the scores were 0-0. What was he sent off for? Good question. Seems like it was something he said to the ref, but flabbergasting, Justin.
Yeah, I sympathise with both Dan Neil and the ref in this scenario, mainly because judging what Tony Mowbray said, then maybe Dan Neil shouldn't have been sent off for what he said. It seems a bit soft, but then you can't yell swear words towards the referee either. So I also think maybe the referee had a bit of substance there to send him off. It is harsh. It is, yeah, but it is harsh. But at the end of the day, you can't swear. Well, you can swear. I don't really know. Or maybe I'm being too soft.
Justin, it's a big boys' game now. Come on. If you're giving yellow cards for people swearing at referees, then we'd have bloody 24 cards handed out each week.
Yeah, but it depends what the referee's interpreted that as. Do you know what I mean? It comes down to the referee.
No.
Even if you question the decision, you can't really swear towards the referee. You can yell and be frustrated and swear, but you can't be throwing questions.
No, Justin, I get what you're saying. I get there's new rules about remonstrating to referees, but there's got to be common sense here. These rules were introduced to stop players crowding around referees. Dan Neil said something to him from 20 yards away. All you have to do as a ref is just go over to him, tell him it's not on, leave it at that. And I think that's what Mowbray said basically after the game. To send him off in the first half and leave Sunderland down to 10 men for a whole half is ridiculous. They're one of the teams who will struggle the most going down to 10 men because they rely so much on passing and having players available for that pass. Plus losing Daniel exposes their defence so much, as we saw. They may very well have lost this game if they still had 11 men. We'll never know. But the sending off killed the game for Sunderland as far as I'm concerned.
No, I don't disagree with that. It's just trying to view it from both sides, and it's just taking a bit of sympathy from both, especially the week that officials have had after the VAR controversy last weekend. It's just one of them. But it is a derby game. You've got to take that into context as well. So definitely the ref needs to lighten up, but at the same time, Daniel needs to be wiser to that sort of scenario. But he is young, he is learning. But you are right. It killed the game from a Sunderland perspective, and Middlesbrough really, really took hold.
I'm not sure I have as much sympathy for the ref as you. I get it, shouldn't be shouting at refs in the first place, but at the same time, players shouldn't be, pulling each other's shirts and jostling in from corners and what have you. But that happens every single week, and we'd be giving out penalties every 5 minutes if it were to happen. Same here, you'd be given red cards every 5 minutes if it were to, be strictly down to the rules. So I just think the ref's got to use common sense in this scenario. Peter's 3-word review for Borough: perfect away performance. Chris simply went with formidable. Sedgefield says Carrick is king. For Borough, though, incredible form continues. 4 wins on the bounce now, up to 16th after their slow start. It's been quite the turnaround, hasn't it? And someone I wanted to put the limelight on is Isaiah Jones, who definitely deserve it because he was excellent against Sunderland and has just been in great form recently. A couple of seasons ago, he was excellent, wasn't he? Under Chris Wilder, was one of the best right-sided players in the division. Last season wasn't so good. It seemed like Michael Carrick was not too convinced by him. However, the last few games, he looks like he's been getting back to his best, and that's very exciting.
Yeah, no doubt about that. He had a 15-minute spell in the second half where he was genuinely unplayable, and he's probably been Middlesbrough's most consistent sort of bright spark in the final third this season so far. But going back to that 15-minute spell, he hurt Sunderland every time he collected the ball. He's direct. He's so smart with his runs as well, and his choice of pass at times is fantastic. Maybe needs to be a little bit more selfish when getting into good areas, but it was a major difference in the second half. And having players with that sort of confidence and just ability to just go at defenders whenever they collect the ball is remarkable. And I think maybe last season, obviously first season when he came through under Wilder, you ride a bit of a crest of a wave when you're young and you're coming through. Last season still looked really raw, but this season looks so much more refined. Decision making so much better as well. So yeah, he was a big difference in this game, especially in the second half, as I was mentioning, because he killed Sunderland every time he got the ball.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning when Carrick came in, or I think even under Wilder last season. Basically, last season he was asked to play right wing, which is further forwards than he was before, because he was at a wing-back position before, wasn't he? So it was a bit different for him. Didn't seem to flourish too much, but now he seems to be getting into the groove of it and has been excellent in the past few weeks. So hopefully there's more to come from him. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Sheffield Wednesday's potential new manager and Birmingham's potential new manager. What? Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. Sheffield Wednesday had a huge game in their first match since sacking Isco Munoz. They drew 0-0 with Huddersfield. Of course, Darren Moore revisiting Hillsborough for the first time since his departure. I say this is a huge game because I suspect these two will both be fighting to stay up this season. Someone should have told the players, though, because it was a huge game, but it wasn't one for the ages. Just one shot on target in the whole 90 minutes. However, it's Wednesday's third point of the season. Only Bolton from 2017-18 have picked up fewer points than after 11 games than the managerless Owls. However, they might not be managerless for much longer. According to various reports, German coach Danny Röhl is the leading candidate for the job. He was Ralph Hasenhüttl's assistant at Southampton before becoming Hansi Flick's assistant at Bayern Munich and then the German national team as well. Justin, I don't know if he'll be a good appointment or not, but if it does happen, Wednesday fans have just got to roll with it.
Oh my God, I wonder where that's going. There are a lot of pun opportunities with his name, which for that reason alone, I hope Wednesday do go for him. But you're looking at his coaching background. He's got pedigree there. He's worked with Ralph Hasenhüttl, Ralph Rangnick as well is another one. Obviously, working at Bayern Munich and the German national team of Hansi Flick. It's a lot of good experience as a coach. Would suggest in that case he's a high press lover, or a lover of the high press, I should say. Which I don't know whether this might suit the Wednesday squad or not. It's not particularly quick or energetic. It's disciplined. It's experienced. Doesn't have the strengths for that, but we'll see. We'll judge him when he has a few games. So yeah, it's just one of those where there's a great amount of intrigue. He's quite young as well, so it's obviously an ambitious appointment. It's just whether or not he's got the experience to deliver the outcome that Chansiri wants, staying in the Championship, or build for the long term, making a good go of staying in the Championship and then hit next season hard.
Well, there's a reason why he's the leading candidate for the roller. He was interviewed for the job in the summer before they chose Isco Munoz, which has led to a bit of concern from Wednesday fans because they've been going, well, we picked second. We're going with the second choice to the guy who just gave us the worst start in club history. Quite reminiscent to the whole Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak situation, I suppose, isn't it? But look, I'm a big believer in giving young, talented coaches a chance in management. Look at Kieran McKenna, world-class coach at Man United, goes into management, is working wonders. Röhler's been working at Bayern Munich and Germany, so must be a very talented coach. Seems a bit odd that giving his credentials, he would take a job at a club that is in as big a mess as Sheffield Wednesday are. But look, Wednesday have got nothing to lose at this point. They may as well take a gamble on someone like Röhler. A roller of the dice, you might say.
You're using them all up now.
I know, I'm sorry. It's just too easy. But look, as I say, I'm a big believer in giving young, talented coaches a chance in management. So this could be a masterstroke for Wednesday. It's just about, trying to go against the tide that is kind of consumed Wednesday right now. But this squad is much better than it's done so far, isn't it? So if this does happen, it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. Birmingham came out victorious in a West Midlands derby. They won 3-1 at home to West Brom on Friday night. A brilliant win for Birmingham, back-to-back victories for them after a dip in form. Shocking penalty decision in this one, by the way. As part of our ongoing concerns about referees, this does not help the cause from the referee's point of view. But it's been a common theme in this episode, Justin. One manager, being under pressure, and one I did not expect to be in trouble over this international break is John Eustace, but that may very well be the case. According to the Daily Mirror, Birmingham are set to hold talks with Wayne Rooney about taking him on as manager. It's because the club's owner, Tom Wagner, is believed to want a bigger name in charge. And Rooney has just left DC United over in the US. Another report says the deal could be done already. And this just seems a bit mad, Justin.
Bit mad. Frustrates me a hell of a lot as well. I'm seething at the thought of John Eustace, someone who's done a fantastic job so far in his time at Birmingham against the tide. Lose his job. Might potentially lose his job to a man who, by and large, has a very meh record in management, or down to his name, essentially. It's frustrating because, as I say, John Eustace has laid the groundwork for Wayne Rooney to potentially come in and either mess it up or carry it on. It's as simple. It's such a high risk. And I don't think it's one that's worth taking. judging on the last time a new owner came in at Birmingham, sacked a manager who was doing well, and then made a poor choice in manager, big name manager, and it go tits up from there. We've seen this before with Birmingham City, and I don't want it to happen again. Eustace deserves the opportunity to manage his team throughout the season, unless there's a drop off in form or the team slumps. There's just zero justification in removing him. Simple.
Yeah, I hadn't made the comparison to the Rowett Zola situation from many moons ago, which I think is still regarded as probably the worst sacking in Championship history, but it does draw parallels, doesn't it? I mean, it would be convenient for all parties if Eustace went to Rangers, Rooney went to Birmingham, because then all clubs are happy in this scenario, if reports are to be believed. Would that be the best move for all parties? I'm not sure. I don't think Rooney would be a bad appointment for Birmingham, but purposely getting rid of John Eustace for him would be a big mistake in my eyes. Birmingham have been playing really well this season. They're in the top 6 despite results not going their way in September. He's a great manager with a bright future, and getting rid of him just because he's not a big name is ridiculous. And I'm hoping these reports are just that, reports, because it'd be a great way for Birmingham to upset the fans by doing something like this after all the hard work the owners have put in since coming in. It just seems insane.
It also puts a lot of pressure on Wayne Rooney to get off to a good start as well.
Massively.
He's taken over a manager who's done brilliantly, and therefore Wayne Rooney's then got to come in and really pick up from where he's left off. There's no room for poor form to seep in, and I think the coach is rumoured to come into the team with him. Coaching team is Johnny O'Shea and Ashley Cole, which again is there's not a lot of experience there. You look at Liam Rossini, who was with Rooney at Derby. There's more coaching experience there as opposed to the other two. So some question marks there as well. But it just seems such a disastrous potential decision. I just don't want it to happen.
Yeah. I mean, if the reports are to be believed, because it seems to have just caught off like wildfire in the past few hours before we started recording this episode, and it seems like this may actually be happening. And initially I just thought it was reports. I thought it was just that, but it seems like this may be truth to this, and I find that quite surprising, to say the very least. So we'll wait and see on that front, I suppose. West Brom, going back to the game, by the way, West Brom's John Swift has now had 6 shots on target and scored 6 goals. That's absolutely unbelievable. What a record that is. It's like he must just be choosing the perfect moment to shoot at this point so he can maintain this 100% record. Leeds are up to 5th after a 2-1 win against Bristol City. Very comfortable this for Leeds. They should have won it by more if it wasn't for a miss of the season contended by Jorginho Ruta. Oh dear, oh dear. Dan James got on the score sheet for Leeds, and he's had a brilliant start, and he's one of those players who has relished the chance to step down a level, isn't he? And I tell you what, considering the amount of talent they have in their ranks, I kind of forgot about him, really, considering they've got Somerville. Well, they had Sinistera, as well as Nonto, Somerville, and all those kind of players. You kind of forget Dan James was there, but he's been brilliant so far.
Well, he has. And this comes at the perfect time as well, by the way, because we had a heated debate on Monday when choosing our team of the month, in that you wanted Ruta and I wanted Dan James in. Dan James has a quality game against Bristol City, and then Ruta puts in one of the misses of the season contenders. Yeah,
I will point out though, Justin, you wanted us to put Morgan Whittaker up front, who's not a striker, so it's kind of cheating, really.
Fluid front three. Anyway, that's besides the point. You are right about Dan James, because I had exactly the same point I wanted to make. I'd have thought he'd have been lower in the pecking order of wide players at the start of the season, but he's just been getting on with business. 5 goal contributions in 9 is a great return for a player there, and I think you've got to really, really compliment him on his ability to just sit into this Daniel Farke team and play to his own strengths. His pace has been a massive asset for Daniel Farke, and he's getting the end products there. It's doing the talking for him.
Yeah, 4 years ago he started 33 games in the season for Manchester United, so maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that he's doing well in the Championship, but to be honest, I kind of forget he was ever at Man U, and I think he should have stepped down to the Championship sooner, because he's struggled to pull up trees at Leeds or Fulham, and now has been his chance to show what he's all about, and he's been doing it. He's got the 3rd highest expected assists in the division per 90. He's been creating chances for fun and has been showing a lot more end product. We all know about his pace, but this is what else he can do and it's been great to see. I was looking at the Championship table earlier, Justin, and there is an almighty gap that's opened up between the top two and the rest of the league, isn't there? 8 points separating Ipswich in second and Preston in third. We said that we reckon the top three will be Ipswich, Leicester and Leeds in some order. So are Leeds still the side most likely to catch the top two, in your opinion, Justin?
When you're looking at the top six, you've got like Sunderland in there, Preston, Birmingham. Leeds have got the quality, haven't they? They've got the quality and the depth to do it. Joel Pirro's hitting a ridiculous form. You got Rutter, if he's not missing those chances inside the 6-yard box, then you're backing him to be more clinical throughout the course of the season. Then you've got the likes of Somerville, Nonto, some of the other players have picked up injuries. Archie Gray, I think, played it right back in this game as well, was fantastic. There's just a lot of quality and depth in this team, and a lot of flexibility and fluidity as well. And I think Daniel Farker's only just tapping into it. I don't think he's yet found the perfect formula to really kick on. So judging by all of that, I do think they're the team that are most likely to catch the top two, but you can't rule out the likes of Sunderland. Mainly just Sunderland, actually. I'd make the argument for Southampton if something really, really goes their way. Again, you're looking at the quality that they've got, but looking unlikely for them. But Leeds definitely got the quality to do it.
I say it's unlikely for Southampton, only 2 points behind Leeds. So despite them having a very high-profile bad run, they're not that far behind Leeds or the rest of the chasing pack. I think the thing is, in a normal season, this start by Leeds would actually be very good, but because the top two have just been so rampant, it's made the start look pretty average, haven't they? A 9-point gap already is quite big, even though there's still so much football left to play, and that top two just seems so unrelenting that it's going to take a very talented squad with plenty of depth to catch up with it. So Leeds are the obvious one, Southampton possibly as well, now that they've seemingly turned a corner. But Leeds just seem to have so much firepower. They've won the last two games by 1 goal, but really could have won them by more. So Leeds will be right up there come the end of the season, I'm sure of that. They're going to have to go on multiple winning streaks over the course of the season to finish in the top two. And Ipswich will have dipped in form at some point, I'm sure, but I don't think there'll be a big drop-off like many people are seemingly expecting, judging from what I've seen on social media. I think Leeds have just got to be more consistent than they have been, and incredibly consistent for the remainder of the season. But look, it's 11 games in. There's always going to be these teething issues. We can't all have starts like Leicester and Ipswich. So as this beast continues to awaken from its slumber, I think they will start sprinting at some point. It's just about whether they've got too much ground to make up, really, on the top two. Are just absolutely flying. Swansea's remarkable turnaround continued. 4 wins on the bounce now for them after winning 3-1 away at Plymouth. Reese's 3-word review for Swansea: home park humbled. Forever Jack has gone with Duff Ball arrived. And here's Michael's: Justin was right. And Justin, you told Swansea fans to be patient with Michael Duff. This is why.
Yeah, but I do think I was maybe a little bit naive in saying that, because I was putting a lot on Duff getting it right, mainly because it took him a while to do it at Barnsley. But I'll take the plaudits. My ego is going to grow. I'm going to use this as a big FU to people who try and correct me. I am now the almighty Justin. Gets things right.
Do you not remember the first half of the episode?
That's true. Yeah. being quickly humbled. Imagine, quickly changed. Thanks for that. But the results are showing. But not only that, the performances have improved. There's a little bit more purpose about Swansea now. And again, I don't think we're quite seeing the best of them. I still think it's very early on in their journey under Duff, and I still think they're going to come across speed bumps. That's going to make things uncomfortable at times. But by and large, he's a very talented coach. When he gets the players working hard for him, it's a very good place to be. And Barnsley were fantastic in the second half of last season. And that's what really catapulted them into contention for a top 2 push. Solidified the place in the top 6, and we were lucky not to get promoted in the end. So I'm not saying that's going to be the case for Swansea, but I think the better times are yet to come under Duff.
Yeah, and you're quite right. Barnsley had a bit of a stinking start last season, didn't they? Probably not as bad as Swansea's start, because that was looking pretty bad at one point. But now they're absolutely flying, and Swansea have a brilliant record with their managerial appointments in recent years. We were talking about that quite a lot a few weeks ago, and I don't think Michael Duff was the worst of the bunch there. I think it just was a slow start, and now he's showing what he's made of, and that's why you're such a fan of him, Justin. And it's a really good squad as well, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I think that's one thing that we've not really spoken about enough, and probably one thing we didn't highlight when assessing transfer windows is Swansea had a really good window. I thought they recruited really well. Josh Timon was a great capture. Josh Key is looking brilliant as well. There was a little bit of nervousness from me about him coming into the Championship, and Jerry Yates is scoring goals as well. So there's a lot of thumbs up there for Swansea. And again, they've gone under the radar in how good they did in the transfer window. Kept hold of Matt Grimes as well. Just everything there is it's a nice puzzle that's being put together. It's still spread across your dining room table at the moment, but it's slowly corners are there. I don't know how to put a puzzle together, but the corners are there, and we're getting there with Michael Duff. I've never done a puzzle.
Charlie Patino as well, someone you didn't mention, who's
exactly.
a really very highly rated young lad. And Carl Rushworth in goal has done a really good job after they had a couple of issues with goalkeeping last season, did Swansea. But yeah, they do have a talented squad, quite a young squad actually, but it's going places now seemingly, and I think they're only going to keep going further and further. I'm not sure how far up the table they're going to go, but they're absolutely flying now. I think they're in the top half off the top of my head, or at least round there.
The 12th.
Which is quite remarkable considering where they were after the South Wales derby when things were looking very grim. But yeah, it's suddenly turned around very quickly. How quickly things can change in football, Justin. Raw's 3-word review for Plymouth: not clinical enough, which is a fair one. I would agree with that. Here's your coupon buster of the weekend. Southampton 1, Rotherham 1. Southampton had 22 shots to Rotherham's 4. Southampton's XG was 3. Rotherham's was 0.1. It's the biggest discrepancy in expected goals for a Championship game this season. That's the kind of game it was. Southampton domination throughout, and then out of nowhere, a freak but brilliant goal by Jordan Hugill. Despite the result, you wanted to praise Southampton, Justin.
I did, yeah. I read a few things, and Flynn Downs highlighted it in a post-match presser that a lot of fans booed Southampton. And yes, the result is a painful one. It's a frustrating one. But they got FM'd, and if no one's aware of that, FM is basically what you described as a team running away with it, or getting away with it by not creating much, and you battering them, and etc., etc. But I think the performance was just another step in the right direction. It also highlighted where they need to be. It was a good example of what Russell Martin Ball can do: score early, starve the opposition, just struggled to kill the game, and conceded a brilliant goal, by the way. I'm not really sure how Jordan Hugill pulled it off, but it was a superb strike. But that's just how it goes sometimes, and that's the Championship. Yeah,
it is. It was a very Championship result, really, wasn't it? Because it was a brilliant strike by Hugill, and we've spoken a lot about Rotherham, how they've relied on basically crosses into the box or moments of magic like that, and Hugill's done it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many more he's got in the bank for an entire season, but that's just the Championship, isn't it, unfortunately. And Southampton should have won this one, but didn't. However, I agree with you. I think they're going in the right direction despite this result. There was more good news for Southampton this week. Carlos Alcaraz signed a contract extension to keep him at the club until 2028. Brentford have been sniffing around him recently. Also been called up to the Argentina squad for the first time, so well done to him. Coventry 1, Norwich 1. Coventry equalising late on through a Ben Gibson own goal. Disappointing result for Norwich in the circumstances. They won just 4 points from their last 5 games after their remarkable start to the season. However, they have announced a new sporting director to replace Stuart Webber. Ben Napper, set to start work at the club at the end of next month. He's been working at Arsenal for the past 13 years. What do you think to that, Justin?
Glad that you came to me, because I'm a Ben Napper expert. Looking at his experience, he was chief analyst at Arsenal, then loan manager, so he's got a really good hold on the important elements a sporting director will bring. He knows the data side of things, and he's very well aware of the importance of developing youngsters. So there are 2 credentials that are quite important. Obviously, getting a replacement in for Stuart Webber is also important. So hopefully, this sparks a new direction for Norwich and a new strategy, because you've mentioned it a million times. Stuart Webber's recruitment's a bit so. So maybe Ben Napper can bring in a little bit of a different perspective, because we know Arsenal's ability to recruit youth players and bring them up. He's very, very effective.
Yeah, he's got to oversee a big reset at the club. Norwich, I think, are now we're starting to see what Norwich are actually like as a team in the more recent games, because I think that start, well, remarkable as it was, and they were playing so well, I didn't ever really see it lasting because I just don't think the squad is that good, and the club's just been directionless for a while now. So when he comes in, he has got his hands full in trying to get this club going in the right direction again and starting off something afresh. Could be interesting to see how that affects David Wagner's future, because of course he was brought in because he's big mates with Stuart Webber. Now that Webber is going out the door, could Napper maybe see or think to himself, we need to change here and bring someone else in?
Well, I mean, it could catch Wagner napping. Is that a good enough pun?
At all. I appreciate the effort, but didn't work at all. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens with Wagner when that appointment is made official. I suppose it's already made official, but when he comes in, you know what I mean. Millwall v Hull finished 2-2 in a great game at the Den. Al's 3-word review, which I think is the same 3-word review he gives every week. Same old shit. Appreciate it, Al. Appreciate you getting in touch. And finally, Cardiff and Watford drew 1-1. Danny's 3-word review for Watford. Can't score sitters. Surprisingly, despite the form of these two, Watford really should have won this one. Missed some unbelievable chances, and then the goal came from just a mistake by the goalkeeper. It's just how it happens, I suppose. Let's do the polls as the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter because we want to get their thoughts on things to do with the Championship. So the first question we asked was this: will Leicester and Ipswich be the top 2 come the end of the season, yes or no?
I've committed to the tractor now, so I'm looking an absolute dick if I say no. So yes, that will be the top 2 coming the end of the season.
That's what we like to hear. Of course I'm going to say yes, although I think, as I've said before, I think it will come down to Ipswich and Leeds for second place. I think Leicester could absolutely tank the league at this stage. Maybe Southampton as well. Other suggestions from people here: Leeds. Sunderland, yeah, fine. Leeds. A lot of Leeds fans have definitely caught on to this one. Someone says Ipswich won't make the playoffs. What? I'm not sure about that. That's a very bold opinion. But 49% of people said yes, it will be Leicester and Ipswich. 51% said no. What should QPR do? Sack Gareth Ainsworth, keep Gareth Ainsworth.
Yeah, it makes sense to sack him at this point. The results just haven't been good enough since he came in Feb, let alone this season.
Yeah. I will continue to say that we're not actively, calling for Gareth Ainsworth to be sacked, but I think we're both very much of the opinion that a better manager could do better with this squad. So that's where we'll stand on that one. 70% of people said sack Gareth Ainsworth, 30% said keep. And what do you prefer, starter or dessert?
It does depend on the mood, but if I was going to pick one, I'd rather go for a dessert because the main's basically your starter. And starters are not as good as desserts on most menus, I'll add.
I am very much a savoury over sweet man, so I'm starter every single day of the week, baby. 56% of people said starter, 44% said dessert. Now it's time for this.
Hi, Simon Grayson here.
Yes, it's time for Simon Grayson's Hateful Eight. So Justin is going to ask me to name 8 of a certain subject. All I've got to do is name all 8. So, for example, if he would say, name Steve Bruce's last 8 clubs, and I would say Villa, that's 1 down, and then Newcastle, that's another down. But if I were to then say Weymouth, I would lose a life. So all I need to do is get all 8 answers without losing all my lives. How many lives are you giving me, Peachy?
I'm going to give you 1.
1?
Life. Simon Grayson's giving you 1 life. You should get these.
Wow. Okay, then. What is the question, then, that you have for me this week, you bastard?
8 managers have been in charge of Birmingham since Gareth was sacked in 2016. Ooh. Who are they?
Good question. I tell you what, fair enough, that's a good question. Can't believe there's been 8.
There's been 8.
That seems outrageous. Well, the obvious one there is Gianfranco Zola.
That is the first one, correct. If you can do this in order, I'll give you a bonus high five when I next see you.
I definitely won't be able to do it in order. I'll go with John Eustace, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. He's currently in charge.
Harry Redknapp.
Boom, that's the next one.
I did have a bit of doubt in my mind then, because I wasn't sure if he was before Rauer. Okay, Aitor Karanka.
That is correct. Aitor Karanka is on there.
How many more have I got left?
You've got 4 left. 4.
Pep Clotet.
That is the one I didn't think you'd get. Incredible pull there.
I remember
Lovely
Pep.
stuff. 3 left.
Yeah, such an unremarkable manager. He was quite a nice bloke, wasn't he?
Nice bloke, steady as well.
Yeah, and of course he was the assistant to Gary Monk.
Yes, correct.
Now I'm struggling.
Just a bit of a sidestep. Gary Monk's been linked with the Sampdoria job.
What?
Yep.
Hang
Saw
on,
it this morning.
that's completely thrown me off. What?
Mind games, I'm in your head now. Yeah, Gary Monk's been linked with replacing Andre Pirlo at the Sampdoria. Back to Simon Grayson. Come on.
There's so many levels to this. He's replacing Andrea Pirlo.
Linked, our lad. Linked. Come on, let's get back to old Simon. He wants his answers.
You've completely done me now. Jesus Christ. Wow.
Love
okay.
that. Love that.
Wow, that honestly astounds me. Right, I'm trying to do this chronologically now. So John Eustace took over from Karanka, I think. I'm looking at Justin Peach's face, and he's giving nothing away. He's been practicing his poker face.
You've got 2 left.
I know. I think these were all before we started doing the podcast. I think.
2019 we started.
Yeah. And I think Clotet was in charge when we started. Yeah. So it must have been before then. And my mind is going blank. I've got an extra life answer so I can get one wrong.
Yes, I think that's the rule.
Yeah. I'm not sure this is right. Steve Cotterill?
That is correct.
Is it?
That is correct.
I wasn't sure if it was before.
This was peak Steve Cotterill when he started to lose his mind a little bit. Some weird interviews.
Very David Brent, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it. I'd love to see him back. Oh, who was the other one?
I've got one more, and I'm surprised you've not got this one. I really am.
How long was he in charge for? Will you tell me that?
No, I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay, then.
Simon Grayson's feeling particularly spicy today.
So it was Zola, then Redknapp came in to save everything. Then Redknapp left.
Yeah. Good work. Fantastic.
Then is it that manager?
No.
That was Cotterill then, I'm guessing.
Correct.
So it's whoever took over from Cotterill. But
it might be. I don't know. But I'm going to have to rush you because
I know you are.
I've got places to be and things to do, Ryan.
It's not Chris Hughton, is it? He was before.
It is not Chris Hughton. Chris Hughton was back in 2012. You do have one more life, though, don't you? You've got one more guess.
That's why I just threw him out there, because I wasn't 100% sure.
This is painful.
This is painful. I don't know. It just didn't. My mind's gone completely blank. I mean, I'll throw out Simon Grayson because I don't think he was, but
it wasn't Simon Grayson. You're going to kick yourself. You're going to kick yourself. Get ready for this thud, listeners. Lee Bowyer.
Fucking hell. Bollocks.
You basically came up with a campaign to keep him in charge of Birmingham.
I forgot he was there.
Bad spell.
And he was there when we were doing the podcast, wasn't he?
Yeah. Just Lee Bowyer was sacked last summer, quite late, and then Eustace took charge.
Oh, so he didn't take over from Karanka. Oh, that's so stupid. I'm so annoyed at myself. Fair enough.
Should be. Idiot.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I've fallen foul to Simon Grayson's hateful hate. That was a good question, though, Justin. Sorry, I've just punched my mic in anger. But there we go. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. Before we go, may we ask you, dear listener, to take 5 seconds of your time to leave us a 5-star review on whichever platform you are listening to us on, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever it is that you're listening to us. It goes a long way to helping us grow as a podcast, so we would bloody appreciate it if you did that for us and left us a little review while you're at it as well. Thank you very much. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.